Right now, you're probably aware that a few days ago, Rotten Tomatoes changed their website to no longer display the Want to See area on upcoming films. Whether or not this was directly due to Captain Marvel's score dropping all the way down to 27% or not is difficult to tell, but it certainly looks very suspicious. So, although it's now virtually a 100% score for every film, because there is no do not want to see, there's just a want to see score, we can use the previous numbers when it was down to 27% to calculate what would be the current want to see score, even after voting to not want to see the film has been banned for several days. So on the left hand side here you can see the history of the want to see score for Captain Marvel on Rotten Tomatoes, and you can see the uptick started when the do not want to see mounts have been banned. So this 35% is just a virtual score of what it would be at with the previous do not want to sees with the current want to sees, which is really an indication of just how bad things were, that after several days of not allowing anyone to say they don't want to see the film, the best they've managed to do is actually claw things back to 35%. The film opens on the 8th of March, and if things keep going at this rate, it would probably be very unlikely that it could even get to a 50% want to see, having banned people from saying that they don't actually want to see the film. That's how bad things actually went. And this graph here on the left just shows the same information in a different way. It splits up the likes and dislikes instead of having an overall percentage. You can see that the dislikes have flatlined because it's obviously impossible to get any more dislikes into the Rotten Tomatoes system anymore, whereas the likes are still going up, but they have a very long way to go. And when the likes and the dislikes reach parity or get to the same level, that's when the overall score will only be at 50%, which may not actually happen, but we'll see. These two graphs are from a previous video that I posted. The left-hand graph says 20%. That is the best case scenario that Captain Marvel was on until they actually banned being able to say that you do not want to see the film. The right-hand graph shows what would have happened if the dislikes kept growing at the rate in which they were growing, which was nearly exponential. It's probably unlikely that that could have happened, but never put anything past crazy people on the internet. It does say 0% there. It's actually 0.4%, which Rotten Tomatoes would have rounded down, but 0.4% was theoretically where the Rotten Tomatoes want to see score would have been by the 7th of March if things kept going the way they were going up until do not want to sees were banned. So somewhere between 20% and 0.4% was where the would like to see score was headed to before things were changed. I've commented before that 70% of Fandango, which is the company that owns Rotten Tomatoes, 70% of Fandango is owned by Comcast, which in turn owns Universal, and 30% of Fandango is owned by Warner Brothers. And that's obviously a big conflict of interest to have two big film studios own the reviewing site. But the other conflict of interest really is just that Fandango owns Rotten Tomatoes. You don't need to look at who owns Fandango. Fandango is an online ticket seller, an e-ticket seller. Their business model is selling movie tickets. And so it's in their best interest to make sure that movie tickets sell. If there's bad reviews for films, they're probably looking at not as many people purchasing tickets, which will affect their bottom line. You can see here from the MPAA that $11.1 billion was spent on the US-Canada market in 2017 on movie tickets, and that there were a total of 777 movies released in the United States-Canada market. But of the top 25 films, they accounted for 54% of the money, and the top 5 films accounted for 19% of all the money. So 5 films, the 5 big blockbusters, they made nearly 20% of all the money. And so, although it would seem like a strange business model for Rotten Tomatoes or Fandango to have Rotten Tomatoes not be very reliable, at the same time, they need those 5 biggest movies to make their maximum box office open weekends, or else they'll lose a large proportion of the money. So again, 20% of their money comes from 5 movies, and then there was another 777 movies that made the other 80%. So making sure that the 5 big movies of the year don't get any sort of negative press is very much in Fandango's own interest, which allowing them to even own a reviewing site, that's where I think the conflict of interest really is. Not so much that, Fandango is also owned by Universal and owned by Warner Brothers, but just Fandango itself. They really shouldn't be running any kind of review sites. Thanks for watching. We'll see over the next couple of days if the virtual want to see score can actually claw itself up to 50% before the film is released, or if it's unable to even get to 50% while not allowing anyone else to say that they don't want to see the film.